Previously on part 1.
He liked me and we got involved and he was my first real boyfriend. The heartache is real. When you get older and you look back, you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, I was so young then and I felt like I knew everything. Yeah. Everybody should just be upfront about what they're looking for. The montage of all the great events like you see in a movie. Teenage angst is the worst. You really have to know that you can trust them. Do not do anything until you are really super secure and comfortable in the relationship. Or like you said you weren't feeling well and yet there's a story on so-and-so's Instagram that shows that you're at the beach cuddling up with some other girl.
Hey guys, and welcome back to part 2 of this video that I did with my mom where she answers your questions on boys, relationships, heartbreak, all of that kind of stuff that you're too afraid to ask your own mom. You can go check out part 1 right here, but basically this part has even more answers to the questions that you guys asked just because, as I explained in part 1, the video was just way too long to make it one video, so I ended up dividing it into 2 parts. So this is part 2 and I really hope that you guys enjoy and get some more insight from hearing the rest of my mom's advice.
So the next question is things to stay away from after a breakup. Like what's not good to like look at or be around? Oh, well, it depends. Everybody's different. Some people want to immerse themselves in all the old pictures and text messages and just like maybe they gave you stuff, looking at it like building a little shrine in your bedroom to that person. And sometimes that can work just to like get yourself sort of through it and like cry it all out and let it all out and then eventually put all that stuff aside and move forward. But then there's the opposite of that, which is some people it's like out of sight, out of mind. The second a relationship ends, put everything in a little box and put that away somewhere. You don't want to look at it because every time you see something that is a reminder of that, it's going to be upsetting, it's going to be triggering. For me, I know like avoid really sad, intense songs because music for some reason really brings it out. It does. You don't want to be barely functional because like a song comes on and you start bawling your eyes out. Like why make yourself sadder? I agree, but then by the same token, if you've got it all sitting there brewing inside of you, it's good to get it out some way. Call a friend, somebody to just let it out or write in a journal. It's like all about balance. Some days you need to distract yourself, some days you do just need to feel it. And exactly. You should avoid the things that might trigger you if you know that they're gonna sort of make you dysfunctional. If it's just pointlessly gonna, right. If it's making you dysfunctional where you don't want to get out of bed because you're so sad and you don't even feel like reaching out and talking to anybody or going out with your friends or engaging in any activity that doesn't involve thinking about them, I would say you need to force yourself to get out of bed, take a walk, do anything to change your perspective because it's not healthy to just sit and dwell and shut down. I know it's unrealistic because when you're feeling that crummy and you're that sad, it's debilitating. You don't always feel like, oh, hey, I'm gonna go take a hike. But what you don't realize is that by doing those things, you actually will help yourself feel better. But it is really hard. You need to be really disciplined. Being busy is the best thing you can do. Sometimes helping others helps yourself. Go out and volunteer somewhere, or even if it just means helping your little brother or sister or your parents with something, like immerse yourself in an activity that can take your mind off it. But I do think it's important to talk about it, and I do think it's important to process it, and also be kind to yourself. That is one of the most important things. Be easy on yourself. If you're like, you know what, right now I just need an ice cream cone. Be gentle with yourself. Go have that ice cream. Go do something that makes you feel good. Take it in little steps too. You can't expect to just be over a relationship in like 2 seconds. Right, it takes time. It's a whole process. So it's little steps. It's like, can I get through the next, sometimes it's 5 minutes, you know, can I get through the next 5 minutes, and then maybe it becomes an hour, and then it gets easier every day. Eventually it lifts. And as I've said before to Ruby, and I've said this, you know, to her friends. Yeah, because we got another question like, have we like shared heartbreak together? Like, yeah, she's been there like through the whole thing. Yeah. But I mean, you have to understand that this is not the last relationship or friendship or whatever it is that's ended. There will be more. Part of life is that people come in and out of your life, and there will always be new people that enter your life, and eventually there will be someone new, but that might not work out too. Like you can't enter each relationship thinking, oh, it's not going to work out, because then that's, you know, a very depressing outlook, and you don't want to go into a relationship thinking, well, this is probably not going to work out. But I guess the point that I'm trying to make is maybe it'll end up being a lifelong relationship, maybe it'll be your forever person, maybe your actual romantic and intimate relationship won't work out, but you'll realize that you want to be friends and you'll still be in each other's lives. The possibilities are endless. It's all how it can play out. What's meant right, but I think that each thing is meant to happen, and the biggest thing I can say is when you're in each moment of every day of your life, basically try to be as present and immersed in it as possible, because nothing is a guarantee. There's no guarantee that any of us are going to be here tomorrow. We are one person in a planet of billions. You got to live each day to the fullest. Try to just be as present as possible each day of your life. Commit to that moment, commit to that person as best as you can. You know, whether that's all you can do. Right, whether it's a friendship friendship, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a relationship, whatever it is, commit to that moment with that person and be present and be your best self and try to hopefully bring out their best self. And if it doesn't work out, don't think about that all the time. Just play it out. If you're always worrying about the end in the beginning, and I've said this to Ruby, the end is always in the beginning. And this is a saying I say, the end is there in the beginning. A lot of times, even, you know, a 5-year relationship, a 20-year relationship, and you look back and you say, you know what, when I first met them, I had this sense that I didn't like this about them, or there was something
and that's why it ended.
Me. And maybe that is part of the reason it ended. And so when you meet somebody and you cross paths and you interact and you become part of each other's lives, you're learning about each other. And if there are certain things that give you a bad feeling or like a little red flag as they call it, I think that it's hard to always listen to that, especially when you're really excited about somebody and interested in them, because there are so many other things that are distracting you, and you're hoping that the little nagging thing in your mind or your little intuition or red flag or whatever it is just going to go away. And it often doesn't. And eventually it comes out. And so trust your gut. But I mean, I shouldn't say often. You know, a lot of times it could end up just being, you know, people bring different things from their past to the table. So if you've been cheated on, you might look at your new partner and think,
and be suspicious.
I'm suspicious, when they're not somebody you need to be suspicious about, but you're just bringing your past trauma or past experiences into the new one. That's part of the reason it's really important to know yourself really well and to be able to be really open and communicative. And that's an ideal world. Even in relationships that don't work out, they serve their purpose, they have their value. A lot of people that come into your life won't be there forever, but they are there at that time, and you can have some wonderful memories as a result. You can look back and say, hey, that didn't work out, but oh, I'm so glad that I was with them because I had the best summer, or I had such an amazing traveling.
Serves its purpose.
Right. The pain of losing a person that you've connected with, no matter how you lose them, whether it's mutual, whether it's a breakup, or God forbid a death, you have that experience at the time, and no one can take those memories away from you. And hopefully those memories have taught you something and are also things that you can always look back on with a smile on your face at some point. You'll know you're really over somebody, or at least moving on from somebody, when the things that initially make you cry after the breakup make you smile. Like, you know, a good memory of early on when, let's say, you were both really engaged in conversation and excited to spend time together and both so kind to each other and really immersed in the beginning and the newness of a romantic relationship. And when you first break up, you can look at those memories and it's like a punch to the gut. Like, your actual heart hurts, your body hurts, you're physically in pain, not just mentally, not just emotionally, but physically in pain thinking of these memories. And one day, even though it might not seem like it, you know, it could take 10 years, it could take 5, it could take 6 months, but whatever it is, you'll know when you look back and now those memories make you smile and they don't hurt anymore, but they're like fond memories. That does happen.
The next question is, what should you look for as green flags?
It's funny because green flags is a new term that I
like
never
good
had.
things.
I know what it means because you've told me, but we never had that term. If they are respectful, number one, they genuinely seem interested in you, they want to get to know you, they genuinely listen to you when you're talking, and they remember the things you've said, and they ask respectful questions or interested questions, non-angry, non-violent, you know, kind. Kindness is a big green flag. When you see them being kind when they don't need to be, or when they don't know anybody's watching, if they're respectful to others, let's say you're in a restaurant, they treat the server with respect, or the way they talk to their parents, or the way they talk about their parents, the way they are with their families, if they're really kind and helpful, those are green flags. When you see somebody who really has strong family values and integrity is a big one. You know, they're honest, they potentially could get away with something, but they choose not to. Responsible, they make eye contact with you, they don't talk behind your back, they are honest with you, they say things even if they don't think you're gonna like what they have to say. It's sort of like an odd green flag, but someone says something to you that kind of hurts or isn't what you want to hear, but they do it in a kind way and they do it for the greater good because they're trying to be honest and communicative for the hope of improving a relationship. That's a green flag because that means they're willing to work on something even if it's not ideal. They want to make it better. If they share parts of their life but they also equally want to hear about your life.
Next question is, any advice about long-term crushes?
It depends what you mean. Like, if it's just a light crush, like the way that people would be crushing on a movie or TV star that they're never gonna get, that's cute. But if there's a person in your life that you've had a crush on for years and years, and for whatever reason either they're involved with somebody, that can be
also
unhealthy.
The other question, which is what to do if you have a huge crush on a guy with a girlfriend.
You have to put yourself in the perspective of that girlfriend and think of how you would feel if you were involved with somebody and somebody else was coming after your boyfriend or girlfriend. You would not want that. So I would say the golden rule applies there. Do unto others as you would hope that they do unto you. I also believe, though, on the flip side of that, if you're interested in somebody who's involved with someone and and you either make it known or you say something to that person, or it gets around that you're interested, and then that person decides to leave their relationship for you, they were not that happy in that relationship. If they were happy with that person, nothing can break them up.
And at the same time though, if someone leaves someone to be with you, chances are they might do that to you too.
That's true. The way that your relationship started could be the way it ended. And so I would say, to the first thing, if you've had a crush that's gone on for a long time and it's not hurting you and you just sort of like having interest in that person and it doesn't make you sad or miserable, you can just have that kind of lighthearted crush. But if you have a crush on somebody and you're in pain or suffering over it because you want to be with them and for whatever reason you either don't have the courage to try to pursue it, or they're with somebody else, they're married or they're in another relationship, you have to, I think, for your own sanity and health, get past that, because it's toxic to be pining away over somebody and yearning for somebody to the point of pain and suffering, and have it A, prevent you from being in another relationship, but B, if it's not reciprocated and it's never going to be reciprocated, you're just wasting your time. And life is precious. You shouldn't waste your time like that.
Next question. How do I approach the topic of my mom meeting my boyfriend with her, or like talking to parents about boys in general?
That's a good question, because every culture is different, every part of the world is different.
Yeah.
So I would say, like Ruby knows, you know, if she likes somebody, she'll tell me. I'm there at the first flicker of interest. She'll say, hey, this guy's cute. So I would say I'm always interested in meeting anyone in Ruby's life, whether it's friends, people she has a crush on, or someone she's in a relationship with. And I think most parents would want to know what's going on with their child. And having said that, if this is the type of situation where you're part of a culture, or
just
it's
like
your culture
family
to not believe that your child should be involved with someone at a certain age, you know, there are a lot of parents who would say, I don't want you to get involved in a relationship until you're in your 20s or university and high school. And so the child or the adolescent doesn't feel comfortable introducing that person to their parents, and they sneak around behind their back, and eventually it comes out and they could get punished or in a lot of trouble. Again, this goes back to being open. I think that if there's someone in your life that's important to you and your parents don't know about that person, I think that's not only sad, but a recipe for disaster. If you're sneaking around or you're not willing to be open about it with your parents, it could be a big problem down the road.
So just being open.
Be open, talk about it, and you know, if you're keeping someone from your family because maybe you think that they wouldn't like your family or your family's not going to like them, that's an example of a red flag. Both you and whoever you're involved with should be very open about wanting that person to get to know your friends and family, and vice versa. And a big red flag is if one of you wants that and the other one doesn't, or if you're involved with somebody who says, let's keep this a secret. That is ding 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 ding, yeah, one of the biggest red flags. I'm waving the red flag. Do not agree to that, because there's something weird about it. Even if at the time they make a good case for, oh, let's just keep it between us.
If you guys are both on the same page about keeping it a secret, go ahead, but it's different if someone's trying to...
And usually that means someone's trying to hide something, or like they're up to no good.
Girls, which leads to another question. How do you get over a boy that you know is talking to about 50 other girls but still talks to you?
Well, I would be honest and confront that person and say, hey, just be honest. I found out this is what you're doing and it doesn't make me feel good. And you know, a lot of people keep quiet about stuff they learn about somebody because they have other reasons to want to keep them in their life. So they know that if they were to say, hey, you've been lying, or you've been cheating, or you've been doing this or that, they know that person might leave and they don't want them to leave. So they put up with a situation that makes them really sad and miserable just to keep the person.
Strength to confront someone.
And sometimes you don't. Sometimes you don't have to confront the person. Sometimes you just say, you know what? I have this information and I don't feel I'm being treated with respect or the way that I deserve, and I'm going to leave this relationship. And you don't always need to explain. If somebody has been treating you badly, or
because another question was how to deal with toxic people. Like,
if you're being treated badly, or you're suffering in a relationship, or even a friendship, or something where you feel like you've been treated badly, maybe, you know, the first time it happens, or it might take a while to really come to the conclusion that this is not what I need in my life. But you don't want to be sitting there with a constant toxic relationship, whether it's friendship, whether it's a romantic relationship. If there are things that happen that keep making you feel bad, then you have to, for your own sake, know when it's time to remove yourself from the situation. And it doesn't always require an explanation. Let's say, you know, you find out someone's either been lying or cheating, or they're interested in several people and you thought that they were only interested in you, or they've been talking behind your back, or even saying things to your friends, or, you know, you find out they've been texting behind your back. It can be a million different scenarios. There's a multitude of scenarios that I can think of. But if it doesn't feel good to you to stay connected to that person, you can leave without having to offer an explanation or an excuse. Sometimes just walking away,
true.
Right. Sometimes walking away quietly and just moving on is the best and healthiest decision for you. You don't owe anybody who's treated you badly an explanation as to why you're leaving. They forfeited the right for you being decent when they treated you indecently.
Yes, love that. And then would you say the first heartbreak is the worst?
Well, they always say there's that song,
yeah.
The first cut is the deepest, and they say the first heartache is the worst, probably because you've never experienced it
felt
before,
that before.
so you're not equipped with the tools necessarily to deal with it. You can feel like you're completely like blindsided. I don't know, some people describe it as a muscle like that's never been worked out before.
Yeah.
So you're building up your resilience, or you're building up that muscle of knowing how to deal with heartache the next time it comes around. But the first time, you're so not prepared for it because you've never been through it. The first time that you are subjected to heartache, you don't have necessarily that muscle memory of knowing what to expect or how to cope or what tools you have to try to help yourself get through it, such as reaching out for support, writing in a journal, all the things that, you know,
like it's probably the same pain later, but you've already dealt with it, so like it doesn't feel as difficult.
But it can feel worse than any other pain because, you know, it's the first and you're your most innocent, I guess, then. And unfortunately, it's such a sad thing because you don't want to become more jaded and cynical as you get older and be like, oh, you know what, I don't even care this time because I've been through this before. You don't want to go through life with that approach where it's like, you know, it's like a callus that you get on your foot or your hand where, for example, walking on your feet, a lot of people eventually get calluses because that area has been pounding the pavement so many times and it's just gotten tough in order to cope with the pavement. Or, you know, when you're playing tennis over and over again, you sometimes develop a callus in your hand because initially the grip of the racket can irritate your skin and the callus helps protect you. But emotional calluses, I don't know if that's the greatest thing. You know, you hear all these stories of people who get older and they have these emotional calluses where they're like,
you want to try to stay open and hopeful.
Exactly. You want to still maintain that childlike innocence and that hopefulness that things are going to be good because there's so much good in life. You want to be optimistic. You want to have hopes that you're going to find all the things that you're looking for and try to make your dreams come true. And you don't want to become jaded and cynical. You know, yes, the next breakup might not hurt as much, but you don't want it to be because you've closed yourself off emotionally. A lot of people get so profoundly hurt the first time when they get that horrible heartache that they protect themselves for every relationship after that, and they don't really let themselves open up fully to somebody because they're so afraid of feeling that pain again. But if you're holding back or you're not opening yourself up, you're cheating yourself of the potential to be really happy. And this is the problem in a lot of future relationships for both people. Like, you know, you have your emotional baggage and you've been through all this stuff, so you end up protecting yourself and not opening up to the new person. Right, because if you don't open up to the new person and they're ready to open up or they feel that you're not opening up, then that can be a barrier to being really connected and close to that person, and then the cycle continues. And then maybe that relationship doesn't work out, and it's too bad because maybe it would have had a good chance if you hadn't sealed your heart off or closed yourself off.
Next question, just a couple more. My ex and I are still friends. Is that okay or awkward?
I'm actually friends with some of my exes because we were together a long time and we developed a deep friendship beneath just the romantic stuff. And when things weren't working out with our relationship, we still realized there were a lot of things that we really loved about each other and still wanted to have each other in our lives. And that, I think, is a wonderful, beautiful thing, as long as it's clear to both of you that it's just a friendship and that you're both looking for other partners and neither one of you would be jealous or bitter or petty or upset when you move on. The problem with having a lot of people who get involved with new people and they're still friends with their exes is sometimes it's not a mutual thing. Like, you broke up but you're still friends with that person and one of you secretly has an agenda of trying to get back together with that person. And then let's say you start getting involved with someone else and now your ex is jealous and wants to put a wrench in that relationship or come between you. Each case is different, but generally speaking, if you're both on the same page and you know that because you've really talked about what you both want and it's a genuine friendship, not
friends with benefits.
Right, friends with benefits I don't think is, you know, unless the person you
unless you're on the same page
again it comes to honesty. If you get involved with somebody who just wants friends with benefits, or, I mean, I'm not a big fan of friends with benefits, but if you're on the same page or if you're honest, again, it all comes down to communication and honesty. If you're getting a sense from somebody that they say they want to be friends with you but they have a secret agenda or they still want to get involved with you, or vice versa, you're saying you want to be friends with somebody but you still secretly have feelings for them, that's a recipe for disaster.
Alright, and then the last question, and I'm sorry if we couldn't get to all your questions, but definitely let us know down below in the comments if you want us to do another part of this, because we will. But the last question in general is now going back to the beginning, like, how do you get into a relationship? How do you deal with worrying that you're never gonna like find love in high school, or like dating in high school, is it worth it? Like actually opening up and like going into talking to guys or girls and like everything like that.
I always think it's worth it to connect with people, and if you're interested in them, go for it. Try to connect with them, try to see what can happen in that connection, and by that I mean maybe you'll end up being friends, maybe you'll end up being involved. It's always worth it to pursue your interests and your
even
dreams.
If you're shy or embarrassed, like,
yeah, it's hard to overcome, and especially, I mean, you'll find that, like, you know, the person you're not interested in, you have no problem talking to, you can strike up the best conversations with, and yet the person you're interested in, you can't even make eye contact with them. It's so hard because you're so shy. It's very difficult, and usually somebody has to initiate it or nothing's ever going to happen. So the person that does that is usually a very courageous person, and it shouldn't be taken lightly. If someone asks you out or someone expresses interest in you, you should always be kind to that person, just because it took a lot of guts for them to ask you out or to say a compliment to you or to initiate that way. I think that if you approach it from a feeling of, hey, you know, I find this person interesting, let's see what can happen by getting to know them. That's a good attitude.
Or joining activities that they're in, or trying to talk to them more. I feel like it's always better to regret doing something than not doing something.
Oh yeah,
because the what ifs will drive you insane.
Oh yeah, I agree. You don't want to just be sitting there regretting not telling someone how you feel, or
so like the most you can do is get yourself involved in a bunch of scenarios and activities, and then you'll have done
there are many different ways happen. I mean, sometimes it's just, you know, trying to strike up a conversation with somebody, or, you know, there are a lot of people who, like, you know, go to the friend of that person and say, hey, I'm interested in them, do you know if, like,
you could go through a friend.
Sometimes that's easier, but yeah, I agree with joining clubs they're in, or, you know, doing activities that you know they're in, and get to know them. I don't think that the second you find someone interesting or have a crush on them, you should necessarily rush right in and tell them, or...
But if you want something to happen, then...
Right, but you can take your time, you can take a little bit of time with it and sort of try to get to know them before you rush right in. Sometimes the impression you have of somebody just from a distance isn't the reality of who they are at all.
And when you get to know them, or what it'll be like to be in a relationship with them, you'll realize you're better off alone.
And you don't always have to get into a relationship with them. You can get to know somebody and see if you like them. You know, I was just using the example of, like, you know, how easy it is to talk to somebody that you're not interested in, but I can't tell you how many times I've heard stories or experienced it personally where you're friends with somebody that you find easy to talk to. Let's say in high school, you know, there's this person in your class that you have no problem talking to because you have no interest in them, and you're your best self. You're funny, you're entertaining, you're easy to talk to, and they are too. And that's because you think you're not interested in them, and then lo and behold, some time passes and you're like, hey, I actually think I like this person. I find them attractive, or they feel that way about you. And look at how it's evolved so naturally and organically. You got to know each other, you spent time talking, and you were being real. You weren't putting on an act or being a
You never know
self.
What's gonna happen.
Exactly.
Like, you never know what's gonna happen down the road.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say, you know, just because you find someone attractive or you have a crush on them, that that's necessarily the right relationship for you. But I do believe that you should get to know people, especially if there's something about somebody that sparks your interest, then, you know, get to know them. But don't rule out somebody that you initially think, oh, I just see them as a friend, because maybe after months and months or even years of friendship where you've been your authentic selves, you could actually end up having real romantic feelings for each other, and that happens a lot.
And then we'll do our outro.
Wait, I want to say one more thing.
Okay.
Through saying all of this, I just, you know, I can't stand the sound of my own voice, and I feel like I'm going on and on about stuff that a lot of people are probably looking at this right now and going, who is she? Like, why are we listening to her?
Everybody loves you on my channel.
Well,
You're
no,
wrong.
but I mean, I'm just saying, like, look, I'm still just learning myself. I am one person.
But life experience is very valuable.
And I'm just sharing some of my experiences and my observations over the years with the best of intentions, just trying to help give some insight. But it doesn't mean that my opinion is right or wrong. It just means that it's my opinion.
Take it or leave it.
Right. I would really love to know that I've helped even one person with some of my advice or guidance. And if you have any other questions, I'm more than willing and happy to answer them. I love the idea of reaching out and connecting with so many people who are struggling or need some guidance, and if they don't feel they can contact someone in their own personal circle.
So please just let us know down below in the comments if she helped. I know for sure that she at least helped one of you, but please let us know down below. And also, we are happy to answer any other questions in the comments. If you made it to the end of this video, please like this video and comment down below what you think the most helpful piece of advice was, and also any other videos you'd like to see with her on my channel, because she does love being on my channel and I wanted to have her on for a while. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I love you guys, and please subscribe too for more relatable teen advice videos. You want to do my outro with me?
Sure.
We like kiss and wave goodbye.
Okay.
Thank you so much for watching, and I love you guys. Bye.